Welcome to Firing Line with William F. Buckley Jr.
Well, I would very much like to commence this discussion by positing the question as to whether the esteemed Dr. Anthony Fauci carries in his head any comparison of the number of people who have died during this century from disease in contrast to those who have died not from war, but from persecution. For instance, the 6 million Jewish dead in Nazi Germany, whose number a novel coronavirus had exceeded in only 2 years, half the time required by Adolf Hitler during the Holocaust. I would like, first of all, to pursue your thoughts in the continuing debate question, and a question that had remained in the background of the recently and quite abruptly, I might add, global public health crisis declaration of emergency regarding the origins of this rather novel coronavirus, which had even become the topic, I believe, of an Intelligence Committee report. Your thoughts, please, Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Well, thank you first for having me, Bill. You know that I keep an open mind and say that we should consider all possibilities until we definitively prove one. But I, together with many highly qualified biologists, vaccinologists, and virologists, including a very recent paper by 21 internationally renowned virologists and evolutionary biologists from all over the world, indicate that although we, of course, keep an open mind, that it's entirely possible that it could be, as they say, a lab leak, but that the most likely explanation is a natural evolution from an animal reservoir to a human. And once you say that, which I believe is the more likely scenario, you've got to make sure that you emphasize that you still keep an open mind for all possibilities, including the lab leak. Bill, you know, I really rely on people like that who have great experience in this. That's what they do every single day. Who again are open-minded in saying it's only conceivable, wholly conceivable, that you may have had a lab leak. So you've got to keep an open mind of all possibilities, but they feel that the more likely explanation is a natural evolution from an animal host.
Indeed, Dr. Anthony Fauci. And you place quite a few qualifications upon your own conclusions, keeping an open mind, of course. And it was my hope, my aspiration, that we, in this discussion, could perhaps dig just a bit deeper.
Why, of course, I look very much forward to this discussion.
Further, perhaps into your rationale, your reasons and arguments, logically and cogently stated. I believe that you had referred to a rather recent paper that had been published by some 21 highly reputable and prominent microbiologists, evolutionary biologists and virologists, and perhaps just in introduction, your casual reference, while certainly appealing to those susceptible to the fallacy of authority, may sound quite impressive. And perhaps this evening we can further develop that analysis, examining its rigor and the undergirding support for this conclusion and subordination of alternative theories that have been at least suggested for the origins of this rather novel coronavirus of an ideology that has been described by some as quite singular.
Why, of course, I look very much forward to this discussion.
Since you had referenced this paper by 21 evolutionary biologists and virologist. Perhaps you can tell us just a little bit more about that for starters, Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci, please, Doctor.
Yes, Bill. The paper to which I had referred was a work published in the Cell Journal, a very reputable journal, peer-reviewed, in September 2021, titled The Origins of SARS-CoV-2, a critical review, in which these evolutionary biologists and virologists had critically reviewed the current scientific evidence that may help to clarify the origins of the SARS-CoV-2.
I had thought that was the paper to which you had been rather generally referring. And please correct me if I am incorrect. But amongst those listed as authors, including the lead author, in fact, Edward C. Holmes, are certainly names with which many have become quite familiar in a rather notorious way throughout the pandemic crisis. And in fact, Holmes had been referenced by Christian Anderson, another author of that paper, along with Michael Warby, yet another author of that paper, and Robert Gary, and all of whom, at the very beginning, as a recent article published by Heritage Foundation has pointed out, had expressed very serious doubts about a natural origin.
Yes, I believe that many are by now familiar with these emails, but these discussions had taken place within a context which may be missing when certain words and phrases are just lifted by persons pursuing some particular agenda, being political, perhaps, and science should never be political. I am sure that you would agree.
This message was approved by Major Mike Webb. Honest.